Hannes, are you talking?
Nope.
Oh, there you are. Perfect.
Well, now I am. Yeah.
Now you are. Now I can hear you. Was the perfect part. That's the problem with digital audio. It's so quiet. You can't tell when you don't hear the static in the background.
Let me. I guess we need to wait a few minutes for folks to join. I will do the meeting minute taker again. Hi, Yogesh, Ori. Hey.
Hello, Hannes. Good evening.
We have two, as you have all seen, we have two agenda items for today. We'll wait a few more minutes for folks to join, but in the meanwhile, like I put forward two agenda items, but and I think we would be happy if we manage to go through them. The first one was about the draft submission deadline. We have these two documents to submit, so we're going to look at those. And then we also have the hackathon preparation, which is the hackathon is in 2 weeks. So if you haven't registered for the hackathon yet, please do so. If you don't know where to register, send me an email.
Hannes, the registration for hackathon is separate than any one-day registration we do for IETF or a weekly.
Yeah, it's a separate thing. Yeah, you can actually only attend the hackathon if you want. You can also just remotely participate at the hackathon. It's also possible.
Yeah. Let me do that actually.
Yeah, let me copy the link.
We would love to do it, and Hank brings his owl. It's not a real practical thing. So Yogesh, it is separate invite. It's free, but you had to find the separate registration for it.
Question is the hackathon a remote participation even close to being the same as being there?
Well, I did. I participated at the hackathon remotely, so of course it's possible. Of course, it's always nicer to sit next to each other, and if you have some questions, just sort of turn your head. But
okay,
I don't know, Ray, if you have a chance to.
I'm going to try to make it. I'm going to try to make it in person this time, and and then then Monday is the meeting itself, and right. Early Monday is our.
I don't think it is Monday. I think, right?
It is Monday.
Okay.
Okay. And so that I thought maybe remote participation was almost the same, if not even better. I don't know, but I may not make it to that.
Yeah, if you can't make it, then there's obviously no choice, but other than remote participation. But let me send. So I just sent the link to the hackathon into the chat window, and I'm going to send also the link to the agenda into the chat window as well, so you can have a look.
Well, I might stay because it's in my neck of the woods, and so it's not too far. It's not in Japan. Okay, thanks.
Perfect. Yeah, if you need any help with navigating around the web pages, let me know. Okay, I think we are good to go. See Eduardo, Dick, Bob, Neil as well. Hey, John. So as I mentioned, we have these two topics: the submission of the documents and also the hackathon preparation. We had a fairly lively discussion on the mailing list. I don't think we will manage to get into that topic. It's probably something for side conversations to see where this is going. Yeah, it was. Since I asked the question, I was kind of feel a little bit guilty because that basically turned into a larger debate than I had thought. But yeah, that's what it is. Good. I'm going to use the going to do the meeting minutes. Can someone share the screen with the PRs? So we're going to look at the architecture document for submission today, and also the use case document.
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, Steve is faster.
Is Steve sharing it, or do you? Yeah.
Well, he's trying. It would take a few seconds. Now you tried.
Something's happening.
Yeah, hopefully it works.
I don't think I have the right permission.
At least I gave you the permission, but it doesn't seem to work.
Just a minute. Let me see.
Steve, you want to try it again? Another try. Let's see. Yeah, okay, that works. Thank you, Steve. So as you can see on the screen, there are a few pull requests. John, I think your pull request sort of vanished as you revoked it, so you probably need to recreate it from the branch also.
Yeah, we can revert the revert if we need to, but
Okay.
I think it depends what happens to these other ones, because if it goes first, we revert the revert. If we don't, it's going to be different anyway, because it will need rebasing, and it's all just typos and pluralization stuff. So
yeah,
we'll go through these and work out what to do.
Okay, cool. Steve, do you want to sort of go through them and see which ones you can merge, and then we switch over to the use case document? If you're speaking, we can't hear you.
Oh.
Oh, he went offline. John, are you going to share?
Yeah, if I can share my Chrome that we're in right now.
I don't know what problem we always have with sharing.
Oh God, that's not what we want. That's what we want. There we go. Can you see that?
Yeah. Okay, cool. And we can also hear you, so it's an improvement.
Brilliant. Okay, so the one we were just talking about, I just did, since it's here. Yeah, where's he gone? There's the list. So I got a bit ahead of myself because I was just doing typos. So got some approvals and merged it as a base. We'll come back to it, but just to say, you know, the kind of thing that is important in here just for submitting the draft is little bits like grammar nits. There are quite a lot of places where we have signed statements instead of signed statements. You know, transparency services instead of transparency service. So it's all just little bits like that that I thought would be necessary to get a clean look from the rest of the community. But we don't need to, you know, this is very unsubstantial sort of stuff. So we'll come back to it. I think we should do this before the submission, but it's just picking up typos. So the ones that need a lot of discussion, I have done a bit of a sweep. Yeah, go on.
I think that your changes are absolutely fine. I think the only unsubstantial change is the change of the roster in the same PR.
The which one?
And if you could split you added the roster in the pull request at the very top in the YAML.
Oh, I see.
Right. Yeah, and that if you could split that out in a different PR, then that's fine.
Fine, will do. That's a yeah, that was a misunderstanding for me. I'll take that out. Great, and then I'll put it back into the set, and we can deal with it after the meeting. Okay.
So this is number 78. No, this was 80.
It was 80. It's reverted in 82.
Okay. 80.
Yeah. So I can either patch 82 and re-revert, or just make a new one. It doesn't really matter. It's the same work.
I agree with Hank. Probably including one question I have is including the you are one of the what you are in ITF. Remind me, you are the co-chair or chair, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So reminding that I think we said that we want to distinguish these two roles as a co-author of the architecture versus the chairs. So we need
Yeah,
a wide
that's completely fine. I'm happy to stay away from normative and large changes, so I don't need that. I put myself in there and I signed off all of the commits for the well, you can see them for the purposes of the IP clauses and disclaimers and stuff. But if that's wrong, I'm very happy to remove it.
Probably we need a all more wider audience, including all the co-authors, and then we need to debate it maybe in a separate conversation. So that's what I would say. I'm not saying yes or no here, but we need more discussion and more consultation with everybody.
That's fine. That's completely fine, Yogesh. I understand and appreciate that, and you are correct. What that does mean, because today is the deadline for submission, that means we're deciding to submit a draft that is full of typos and grammar mistakes. But if we think we won't get pilloried for that, that's okay.
No, sorry, this is Hank. I do not think that is the resolution. I think the resolution is to just cut out roster changes, reapply the PR, and then merge it. I think that's the solution, at least to me.
Yes,
right,
yes.
so I
will
make that. I'll make a new PR after the meeting with the changes, but without the roster. And if you two guys both tick it, then we'll merge it. I'm happy with that. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah, we will definitely also talk about the author list of the document, or the two documents as we are sort of progressing through the work. So that's good. If we could go back to the list of pull requests, I suspect if we merge, so we definitely think about applying the earlier ones first to avoid having too many merge conflicts.
Right.
What is the Roy Will main, and also like
that's just a branch where I have some changes that I have to finish off.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, so this is work in progress still. Do you plan to merge this today, or?
I don't think I'm finished for it today, but I will see if I can get to it. Yeah.
Okay.
I think some of the changes, Roy, I have taken in my PR about that registration discussion we had. So, but you might have more to it, or maybe you have more intentions about modifying. So
no, well, let me look at what you have, Yogesh. Maybe I'll just leave Ben in mind.
Yeah. So my only comment on this one is I like these changes. I think they're good. But there has since been a thing, I think Henk made a change to talk about authorization and split out what we used to have our role-based access control and stuff. So there might be a small contraindication that just needs to be checked with the current base.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about the role-based in this conversation.
Because whether things are publicly accessible or not depends on the access rules for the transparency service, which is where that other change I mentioned was made.
Right, so I'll have to go through that.
Yeah. Okay. So that one's a discussion still. Removed TBDs is 72. 72. So there's outstanding comments, Yogesh, for you. That's why that's held up.
Is it?
Yeah.
It shouldn't.
No, I think I have. Oh, is this? Because I recollect I had reviewed most of the Hannes's pull request, but maybe this one needs more attention probably.
Well, it shouldn't.
Yeah.
If you look at the files change, like it's always nice that if there are open issues, if the open issues are in the issue tracker, not directly embedded as to be done in the document itself, because in this case it was even included in the subject headings, and that looks weird, right?
Yeah, so actually Henk's marked that as resolved. Oh, so I like this change. I would be happy to merge it. I think it's a good idea. If that's not outstanding, is there any reason not to accept this one?
No, I just thought of giving one kind of, it was just a minor comment actually. I don't know what Hank added it as, could you please provide a suggestion for the meeting on Monday? So basically what we have done in other drafts is wherever there is a to be done, we have created an issue in GitHub for that section and added it as an issue number in the document itself.
Yeah.
So that's what is just a cleaner improved suggestion, but it is nothing to block Hannes from submitting. So I'm perfectly fine if he submits. Maybe I should approve it actually.
I don't think it's it may sometimes help to include a link to the issue, but often the issues are larger than they are not sort of focused on a specific section. So it sometimes gets complicated, like we had with the discussion about the registration policy. It was all over the place. That was part of the problem. So it gets tricky. So that's why we have the issue tracker. But
yeah. So basically, what I meant was for all the major TBDs, if we have a GitHub issue, then instead of filling TBDs in the document, we say this we are working using this issue, or this issue is tracking and refer to this issue. That's what I meant. Are we on the same page or not?
No,
in the document.
that's fine. I just wouldn't include the to be done in the first place. So that's why. You don't run into that question.
But how would you track that there is something pending in the document? There is a title or there is a discussion on something.
Well, it's a work in progress document. Like the whole document is in progress, right? I think everyone knows that that drafts are work in progress documents.
Yeah, but
so I mean, I think it's fine to include references to issues in drafts, just personally, but obviously, different folks are going to have different editorial styles. I don't think presence or absence of an issue marker in the draft is a reason not to merge.
Yeah, of course. I never said I approved it. So this was just an improvement, but it's not blocking my approval. So I have approved it. Others need to approve as well, by the way. I just noticed there is no approvals from the other architects on this call.
This is on me because when I commented, I apparently did not look at the file changes, and of course you provided a suggestion for the thing you wanted to do. So I am approving it right now. Going from request stages to click the right page.
Great.
So.
Okay, fine. So we at least set enough to deal with that offline. This seems like it's fairly uncontroversial now.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so I'm going through. These are going in age order as requested. So I'm rather than showing the list.
Did you merge it?
I didn't. I think Hank was doing something in the background.
Okay. So, Hank is merging. Hank, are you merging it or?
I can do that. Sorry. Yeah, it will take some time until I unmute here. Sorry. Done.
Okay.
And 72 approved. We'll get it done
Next one.
shortly. So 73, removing the use cases. I also think this is a good idea. We have a use case document. So having all of this stuff in two places in the architecture document just doesn't really fit. The discussion seemed to say, let's have the section, but just make it a link to the use cases document. That seems sensible to me. And I've made a suggestion and Henk has improved on that suggestion. So I think this is a great thing to put in. It's not clear that it's actually ready to merge if we still have these things to do.
Well, these things, meaning like we removed that use case section, replace it by the snippet that you had above, which is a reference to the use case document.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
That sounds like a good option to me. That's what I preferred that, because in the core architecture document, you need to say that you have taken use cases into consideration. And that's why somebody should go to the use cases section within the architecture and then say, they have done the job, but you have to go to somewhere else to find it, which is fine. But we cannot really skip line 153 beyond which John has added. So I'm in support for that. Yeah.
Okay, so Hannes, this is your PR. So it looks like if you add the informative header and accept my suggestion, what I've done, clearly with this text here is I've just covered the software, the IoT, CC, and the cold chain. So it's all what was there before, just in high summary. So if you accept those, it seems like we, Yogesh, Henk can approve that in short order after the call.
Sounds good. I will do that. Let me note that in minutes that we discuss this.
Alternatively, we can just, if there is any not further work, but just merge the section, we can do it now. Like we can commit John's suggestion.
I can't do that because I made the suggestion, but if somebody else wants to just do that, that would be great.
Yeah, okay, I can do that.
Okay.
Let me do that. Okay, commit changes. Then I've done that. And
you did it? Okay.
Yes. And I can approve it as well now. Let me approve it in the meantime.
Great. Okay.
Okay, all done now from my side.
Oops. Cool.
Great, thanks, Yogesh. So that's ready to merge, number 73.
Yeah, let me note that in the meeting minutes.
Yep. I'll give you a second to do that.
Merge PR after operating changes, incorporating text provided by John.
There is some compilation error, so
that's okay. We can fix that afterwards.
Yeah.
Probably complaining because we included the link directly, but it's just details.
Okay, sounds like the typing's finished. So let's go on to this one. So this is postponed. So just to show everybody, this has been discussed and proposed to postpone to after 117. So we won't discuss that one.
Well, why is this postponed? Let's have a look at this.
Yeah. Who's?
I think maybe Henk would be the right person to comment on that. Why he's on the call? I suppose he received just a call.
But we've been discussing this for a very long time, and now we seem to be postponing it again.
So Henk, I think you may be unmuted, Henk, if you're intending to.
Henk just received a call, but it's not just a decision of Henk, right? It's a decision of the group to to make some progress on this topic. And so,
Well, I meant that what I meant was what is in Hank's mind when he said, "Please phrase as a dedicated issue and push a PR." Is this a postponement after? What was running in his mind? Is it just? But of course, we can all discuss in his absence as well. So.
Yeah, my thumbs up was just focusing on the dedicated PR, and whether it can get done for today was the other question.
Yeah,
just a call for action.
Yeah, it's like
I don't know what the issue is with.
So the issue here is like I can summarize the issue here, and I think it's actually unrelated to the
what's that?
to the main issue, to the main PR content. So I flattened this list, and Yogesh wanted to have it expanded as a list, not as a. But I think that the problem we can turn it back to what it was, but the important thing here is to tell the reader, like, what are these payloads? Like we write them down as pretending we we know so many different technologies and abbreviations, right? But we need at least expand the acronyms so that the reader who is maybe unfamiliar with those technologies or these specifications understands, like, what does CoreSuite, InToto, Salsa, etc. What does this all mean? And then have a reference in there. So
yes,
you can't just list it as such. Like sooner or later, like at latest during the ISG review, people will ask you for references, and they will want you to expand the acronyms, which is kind of logical, right? So someone has to do that. I'm happy to revert the change so it becomes a list again, if that helps. But I think that's a kind of a distraction from the original issue, which we had been debating for a long time, which is the question about these registration policies. So let me revert this.
Well, I think at least put a comment in that we're working on expanding the information about these, or like footnotes to each one. I think might be enough for people to find them.
Yeah,
I agree with Ray. Yeah, I think we can keep the list, and each one of them list can be clickable. Each item is a clickable link which takes you to the reference in the bottom of the document, where somebody interested in knowing a JSON SPDX would be able to go there. And same for CBOR, SWIT, and CoreSuite.
Yeah,
be the right way of doing it.
Yeah, but since you care about that specific list a lot, so maybe you have a chance today, like, to exactly do that. So we then, in a separate BR, then we have this one expanded and resolved, and we are done with it. Then we don't need to worry.
I'm happy to do whatever you suggested, but I'm not sure I will have exact full time today to do it. So maybe you revert this specific block of change, and then we leave it like that for now, and I do it maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Or you want it now?
It might be good to say that the definition, whether you use these or not, is beyond the scope of the standard, because each one of these are very deep subject and may have an impact. Sorry.
I agree.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Yeah. So I reverted it back.
Because honestly, I didn't know what this issue was about.
Yeah, it was a little bit
yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So okay, I did it. So this is resolved. So this is good. It resolved in the sense that we postponed it, and I will add an issue to the issue tracker, so we don't forget it. But so now, are you now okay with this PR, Yogesh?
Yeah, I'm okay. I lost my audio in like 2-3 minutes, so kind of lost the context in the middle. My apologies, but yeah, I'm happy to kind of work on the pull request.
Cool.
Please create an issue. Yeah.
Okay. So let me do this. This is 76. Registration policy. Okay. Cool. So are there any objections to merge this pull request? Like it was also like it's out there for a while already. We talked about it at several meetings, was in the meeting minutes. And I thought that just to have something in time for the deadline, I put it in there. Or in this case, I remove. I don't hear anything. Ron, can you approve this one or merge this one? I should say, add this to the meeting minutes. Or whoever, or Yogesh.
Yeah. Okay. Let me approve it first. So you have accepted all the changes apart from that list, and then you have resubmitted or you have made the corrections, right? Yeah, we need approval from Hank before we can merge it, Hannes.
On it. Just this very, I don't know, I'm using LCE for my voice. That was a smart idea. I'm in my Wi-Fi with the other thing. Not so smart.
Hannes, we might want to do the fix lint because it seems the linting is failing on this PR. We cannot merge it unless we need to work on this, Hannes, after the call, maybe.
Oh.
Hannes, are you there?
I spoke into the muted microphone. Yeah. I can. So let's see what. Yeah. Well, we can do that. We can do that afterwards. I just noted in the meeting minutes that we merged, or we will merge.
Yes.
We'll merge the VR after fixing leading or line. What is the bugs? Edit. Yeah. Formatting bugs. And we had a discussion about the list of SBOM technologies. Yogesh, I'll note you in there. Yogesh, you will be on the hook for expanding the list and adding the references.
Yes, Yogesh, but not for today.
Not
yes,
now.
That will be a separate issue. Yes. Yeah. I will do that.
Yogesh will expand the acronyms and add references. Cool. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay.
Next one. Okay. So next oldest.
Yeah, this is from me.
Yeah, this is.
So there was a fundamental bug in the spec where incorrectly different places we were using the term transparent statements, where actually we meant to use registered statements or signed statements. So I've done the correction. Ori has, thanks to Ori, he has reviewed it and looked it and approved it. I think Steve has also looked at it, but I'm not sure. Steve, you have done an explicit approval or not? Or if you have any more issues, let me know. Otherwise, and Hank has also looked at it. My pardon.
Ori approved.
There was some nits in that one that I commented on. Let me just double check.
Yes, I think that has been taken care of, as I remember. I think Hank has himself approved it, looked at it, and corrected it. I think the nits which you mentioned.
And this is which one? Sorry, 77.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you fixed all the transparency statement terminologies, or?
No, basically, there was a confusion of what is issued by the transparency service and what is registered within the transparency service. So registration is done for the signed statement, and when the statement comes out of the transparency service, it becomes a transparent statement because there is a receipt part in the unprotected header. So that clarity was lacking in the document. So I made it clear and unambiguous what stuff should be going. So that was the main motivation behind the pull request.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, so it looks good to me. We used to be saying we were putting toast in the toaster, and now we're actually putting bread in the toaster and taking toast out of it.
Exactly that, yes.
That sort of thing.
I was just confirming the changes that the nits I'd asked for were fixed, and I'll give it up to him in a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Can
So
we
we
leave you to
can-
do that in the background, Ori, or shall we wait before we carry on?
I think Hank, your approval is required because your approval, without your approval, we cannot merge it.
962.
Unfortunate
Hank,
time.
are you-
I am in multiple calls. I'm trying. Yeah, this is not funny. Especially today. I mean, who mean what mean people? So I will approve 77, which I have reviewed, but I'm wondering why I did not approve. Let me quickly check, and then we can go. Or you can already go on. So
Hey, Yogesh, just like
Yeah.
on this in the formatting here, are we doing 80 characters? Or are we doing sentences? Because I'm just looking at 962, line 962 on that one.
Okay,
It's a nit. I'm just trying to figure out where we're. Are we breaking on
960.
sentences? Or are we breaking on lines? 80 characters rather.
962. We try to reduce the width of the 959. I think we need to follow a consistent policy here, which another document ID up. But as far as my pool, I make sure I have a small sentences. I don't.
yeah, but the answer is we break a sentence.
Yeah.
I think that was the question, and that is the answer. So break. If you realize that your sentence becomes more lines than you want it to be, and it's not breaking, then maybe write smaller sentences. That's also a good indicator.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so it's just if you can just fix 962 to break on sentence. If you want to reduce it, great. But that's not. There's just a minor nit to just
but
take
you
the
can
line
do it
wraps
in a
out.
new BR easily, like in an editorial BR, so it doesn't block this one.
Yeah, I agree with
That's
you. Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah. Okay. I will make a note of it in line 962. Yeah. Okay. This doesn't have a lint problem, by the way. I have fixed the lints, so
Great.
we can merge it if there is a consensus with the architecture team.
I think you and Hank have approved it, so if that happens, then do it.
Okay. Hank has approved it, so Ori has approved it. Okay, shall we merge? Or...
Great. So
Yeah.
let's do 77.
Yeah, done that. Thank you.
Cool. So 78, getting newer. Actually, this is the last one, other than I need to rebase the typos and put up a new thing. So attempt to define resolution dereferencing from Ori. It is, how big is it? Oh, this is the key ID issuer stuff. So this looks quite large. I'm not sure. Do we think we've got a chance of merging this ahead of the deadline?
Maybe Ori, if you can, maybe not today because it's too short a time. I would like you to present the changes, explain what you intend to do, if possible. That might help the wider audience reviewing it.
Sure. I mean, I think in general they've been discussed on the mailing list to some degree.
Okay.
Essentially the problem is you have an envelope with some security wrapped around it, and you have no idea how to discover the keys associated. So you have to describe that for the cases that are relevant to SCITT. And this one just covers DIDs, which are currently the only system that we comment on in the architecture as far as I'm aware.
It kind of sounds important to me, though.
Very important, I think. Yes.
It's very important. The question is whether we merge it now or take somewhere in here as a suggestion that we should make it a 117 discussion topic.
Yeah. Mm.
So, Ori, do you think you've gone through all the feedback to your satisfaction?
I think so. I mean, Christina from Microsoft gave it a review, and she's definitely familiar with DIDs. I'm pretty familiar with DIDs. I think folks who are not familiar with DIDs would be generally confused.
Why is it so cold in here? This window was open.
I'm not sure.
And the door was open.
Steve, turn your microphone on.
You're unmuted.
Sorry.
All good. I don't really have an opinion on whether it goes in before, after we discuss it at 117. The thing to keep in mind is that we currently describe a DID manifest document, which sort of just doesn't really align with the current DID specification. And so this is a little bit more concretely aligned to terminology in the DID specification. And Christina even pointed out a few other places where it could be more direct in managing that alignment.
So I'm kind of pushing to want to have this completed, pushed into the, and so we can have the longer discussion if necessary at 117.
But we can have the discussion any way, regardless. Like this is always a work in progress. The question is, this
pushes it further along as far as I'm concerned. This gets us closer to where we need to be.
Yeah, and we also, like, if you guys agree with it, we also have one discussion possibility next Monday. Regardless, independently of whether we merge this or not, we can still have a discussion next Monday to talk about this and maybe other topics as well, about hackathon preparation and so on and so on. Because this is actually a topic we want to also address during the hackathon. Obviously, this identity management thing. So let's just ask around.
I agree with pushing this one off. I would rather have it completed.
Yeah. So like, I would like to get a sense from the group here on the call.
What's the so we talk about decentralized ID. I'm not super familiar with that. I think I have the general idea, but could we give an example on that?
No, this is the whole DID topic. We've always been talking about the DIDs, right? And this is Ori just provides some more details on the DIDs. Like, do you remember when we talked about like this DID web, DID key methods?
No, I remember.
Yeah.
But is there a an external reference? Again, this is one of many projects I'm working on. I'm trying to keep them all straight. But what is the practical effect of this on a user of SCITT?
So this at the moment is just clarifying the terminology and discussion that's in the existing architecture to be in line with DID and where we think it needs to be. It doesn't go any further than clarification and correcting some of the mistakes. So I wouldn't treat this as, hey, something groundbreaking, but this gets us closer to where we need to be.
Okay.
That's why I'm suggesting we push this into the system. Complete it. Steve?
Process. How do we want to handle these kind of things? Do we want to work with as drafts, a draft PR, or do we want to merge and then have conversation there? If we don't merge them, things that take a while tend to get very out of sync. So if we think this is good enough for a draft, my vote would be to merge it in as well. But that's kind of that's why I'm asking procedurally, how do we want to handle these kind of things?
Where's the text that we want to potentially merge?
Yeah, Ori, maybe you can go through the text a little bit on what you wrote to give those a chance to look at it or to understand it.
Sure.
Who hadn't read it.
So essentially the problem statement is you have a signed message envelope of some format, and it has a protected header and a payload. And today, you're going to be looking in that protected header or the payload to discover hints that you're then going to use to discover key material. And then you'll use the key material to verify that envelope. Mm-hmm. And then after verification of that envelope, you can start to trust that these statements were made by a company that you believe is associated with that key material. And the hints that you use to discover that key are usually the ISS field and the KID field in COSI and HOSI. And so when DIDs were invented, they made use of these existing registered claim names for cozy and hosey headers to convey that you can discover keys from KID, you can discover keys from ISS. If you follow the resolution process and dereferencing process, you convert from a string to a representation of a public key. When that operation succeeds, you end with a public key, which you then use to verify the envelope. This is the same process that secures ID tokens and access tokens in OpenID Connect. But importantly, like the JWT RFC, which is what OAuth and OpenID Connect use, it just defined these registered claim names. It didn't tell you how to actually get keys from them. And so if we at SCITT don't make it consistent for, if I have a identifier for a key that looks like this, then I know how to get the public key, then no one can actually verify any of the statements that we're making. And there could be many other ways that you might end with a public key that you believe is associated with a company. This is just documenting DIDs, which are one of the ways listed in the current document. You might follow a similar approach if you wanted direct compatibility with OpenID Connect, and you might follow a similar approach if you wanted direct compatibility with header parameters that convey X509. That's it.
Okay, so you can roll your own as well, it sounds like, right? If that's if you have a method that you use, it really doesn't matter as long as you're using some kind of distributed ID.
Yes,
Does it have to be a standardized one?
It's not specific to a specific DID method. The examples in the document use DID example, which is a placeholder for any DID method that conforms to the specification.
Okay, so that's my concern, and it has been addressed. And thanks very much, Ori, for the explanation.
Dick.
Thank you, Hannes. So I have to admit, I'm not at all familiar with DID either, but I do see a lot of software supply chain activity. I mean, there's a huge corpus of software in the world today, but I don't think I've ever seen a DID used in the software supply chain work that we do at REA. The most common things we see are things like PGP digital signatures and X.509 digital certificates and digital signatures that are applied to software. So I guess my question to you is would the existing corpus of material have to change in some way to support DID? Thanks.
So specific to the two signing formats you mentioned, PGP, usually PGP keys are either discovered out of band, like I give you my PGP key, or you go to a PGP key server that helps you resolve a PGP key from another identifier like an email address. SCITT doesn't support PGP in any format. The envelope formats we're creating are cozy envelopes. So I don't really, I can't answer the question on like what's going to happen for PGP. The documents that we're creating are about cozy envelopes. For X509, this situation is sort of similar. Like I might get your X509 certs from going to your website and then installing them in my trust store. That's kind of like gathering the key material out of band. So the X509 question is like, that needs to be answered by someone who does the same kind of thing for X509. Like they need to go into the details so that folks understand if you're trying to use X509 to secure signed statements or transparent statements, how do you do that? Someone has to document that for X509.
Okay, thank you, Ori. I appreciate those insights. I will say that there's a huge amount of use. If you go to any Apache product, for example, they frequently use PGP signatures.
Right, I agree.
Validation. Yeah.
Some kind of backward compatibility. Yeah, sorry, Dick.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I don't know if introducing something that doesn't accommodate the existing practices is going to really help with adoption. So that'd be my concern. Thanks.
Right. Me too. Me too. I think we need to have some kind of a backward compatibility, if only, as a legacy.
Just
In my
to be
opinion.
fair, that we're starting off with X59 CA issued certificates because they have a well-formed way of trust and chain up to roots, because the volume of roots around the world is just too many. If we go to PGP or to self-signed certificates, or we do SSH keys, they need a way to distribute. And that's where we get into discussions of DID documents and self-signed certificates and how to cheapen up the whole model. The working charter does talk about whether we push towards a different identity mechanism, and whether it be DID web, ION, or DNSSEC, we don't care. We're willing to have that discussion. This change is about how to crispen up the language in here about DID. We truly believe that this is probably the way to distribute and deal with cheaper keys. The fact that people believe that PGP as a keyring solution is going to distribute out to the size of the problem we're in, I think is not going to bear fruit. We kind of need a distribution mechanism. And all that Ori is doing here is cleaning up the definition to be in line with DID as it currently sits. So people can now hang their hat on it and say, hey, if I move from JWT or to other things, this is how potentially it would migrate forward. Having the text wrong doesn't help the argument. It also doesn't limit us to say, hey, we've changed our mind at a later time.
Yeah, so you make good points, Roy. No doubt about that. But I really do question if not supporting the existing practices that are so ubiquitous is not going to be covered in SCITT, then I think we are raising a barrier to adoption. And
ubiquitous for software is CA issued certificates at the scale we're talking about. Either code signing or whatever are all CA issued certificates. That's the whole purpose of why SigStore was trying to create, to try and come up with an alternate way that was cheap and free. PGP is seriously not in the loop at this point, unless we come up with a solution like DID documents or so forth to move things forward. I did email for years, and PGP was one of the things I had to support. And the amount of uptake on key rings was just too low.
On email it is, but on software, I don't think it is. I mean, based on just my informal experience on this, I've seen tons and tons of PGP keys out there.
So I can tell you from my own experience, working in the energy industry, PGP has been used since 1995 on the B2B side. So
arguing that PGP is not an old technology. It was written into the specs. Even self-signed certificates is exactly the same thing. It's PGPs all over again. Whether SSH or not, we need to start having a discussion of distribution. And this change does not restrict that discussion. This comes up with a way to distribute the problem in a consistent way that scales out.
Okay. Well, I've made my thoughts known. So I think, wherever we go is fine. But I think that, one thing we may want to consider is the existing practices that are so prevalent across the software supply chain today, and whether or not we need to support those right out of the chute. So I've made that point known. So I'll just leave it there.
Dick, I have to say, I've said it before, but I do agree. I don't see why we can't make an explicit reference to supporting legacy technologies or techniques, and simply, not do any more than that. Because if I see a PGP key in there and I know the sender and I have that PGP public key, then I can match that quite easily. I don't have any place to get it if I'm an anonymous dude. But at the same time,
but Charlie, that comes back to our broader question. It's the transparent ledger that validates the identity, and it would have to change its configuration for every PGP key it adds to its key ring to say, hey, our trust policy has changed. And that to me gets at the other conversations we've been having. So I'm not adverse to your conversation. I'm just saying that let's complete this so we can have the broader conversation of how do we light up different identity providers. The only one at scale that we have today, and I truly mean at scale, is CA issued certificates X509.
Yeah, so Roy, I don't disagree with that at all. I just think we need to have something explicit in there that says if you're not doing scale, if you got a small supply chain where a bunch of people are exchanging, PGP keys informally, they're emailing them to each other or whatever it is, there should be some capability in the spec that says yes, we can support that, although it is not our, that's not our first choice. That's definitely not Plan A. But if recognize that there are going to be these functionality problems and limitations if you have that. But
I think that gets back to the other conversation we've having, which is how do I talk to a notary transparent service and find out what a key ring it would trust is, and somebody would then have to put that as an open issue to add to the discussion of if we went for PGP style key rings, how would you distribute and share the key ring? I'm going to hand over to Steve.
Time check here. So maybe just a proposal, because there's no question of history. I think part of what we're trying to do with SCITT is obviously create a new baseline that leverages the best practices of what's available. And I think we're also seeing more identity providers stand up that will help with where PGP had filled gaps in the past. So I guess my proposal would be to not bring in too many open doors that might not allow us to establish a new baseline and readdress it in the future if the X509 new identity providers don't actually meet the need that PGP had solved in the past. So just kind of keeping it closed and deal with it if it really becomes a blocker.
Well, I don't favor it, so I'm on record, but that's we can move on if the group doesn't feel the same way.
Yeah, I'll just say there's no way I could possibly support a proposal for an architecture that just doesn't have some method to support the existing supply chain practices that are everywhere today,
Dick,
and aren't going anywhere from what I see.
Open up an issue and point into the architecture document where you think that is missing, because right now there's nothing in there that states that as well. The whole point of the DID document solution is to light up these sorts of capability. And as identities change and you issue yourself a new PGP key, how do we track that the two of them are related is a future problem that we need to think about and write. Because currently the architecture document does not preclude any of those things you're talking about. All this pull request that Ori has here is correcting and strengthening the text around DID that was pre-existing. It doesn't limit anything else.
So I think there's a fundamental disconnect here. So I think there's a belief that these keys are used for identity, and they're really not. The identity is of an entity, and they use these keys as an expression to prove their identity. So I think we need to resolve really early the fact that there is this concept of an identity of an entity, and that there are methods to communicate that information about those identities, and keys are one of the supporting artifacts.
Dick, even in the software supply chain, self-attested statements is insufficient. You now have to have third-party attested, which identity now chimes into. You know this. And tracking identity as it moves with different key material is precisely going to be this problem. And even if you say, hey, I have a self-signed certificate and I'm going to use it for the next 20 years, not everybody else is going to. So we need to think through this. I'm fine for you to open up issues for us to discuss, but stating here that, hey, we have a roadblocker for existing technology, I don't see that. And I see this as just as a road forward.
Guys, we are running out a little bit of time. I'll give Neil the last word, and then we need to close here.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted us to bring us back to the issue at hand. I respect the notion of trying to figure out in the future how we get backwards compatibility. My notion is that we could have a way of having people with DIDs or some other scalable approach assert that a PGP key is of interest and that people should trust it, and do it kind of by a branch like that. But right now, the question is, should we merge these changes? And I haven't heard anyone explain why we wouldn't want to merge these changes. It sounds like it makes it consistent with the way that DIDs are currently talked about. So I support merging.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think what we uncovered is that we also want to have some text on supporting talking about like how the X509 certificates would be taken into account. And actually, we talked about this a few months ago, and obviously we would need some text on how this works, and likewise for BGP, how this works as well. So, and I would like to distinguish between the formats like X509 certificates as AS1 and their encoded structures versus the actual sort of hierarchy and how the different certification authorities relate to each other, how you distribute trust anchors, and so on and so on. So that's, I think those are separate issues, but in any case, we need some text.
Yeah, those are all separate issues. People should propose text that people think is useful or scalable or whatever, but we should merge this.
Yeah. I think so too. It will get us a step further. Steve, or who's Steve? Are you?
No, sorry, I was just commenting. It sounds like there's enough baseline here to merge so that we can have incremental decisions on top of it.
But I'm also hoping to see the text for the other things, right? Like we talked about some of those things in the past, and it takes us a very long time to come up with some text that we can actually review. And I think we need to get better at that. Writing text so that I can read it, and then we can advance our documents. We didn't even manage to get to the use case document, so I have to rely on the authors of the document to submit a version today.
So yeah, we can submit a mission. I want to put some highlight on that in the old incubation repository. So I didn't dare to archive this because someone was working on it dedicatedly. There's a new. Oh, Jesus Christ! Now my headphones are dying. Am I still audible?
Yeah. Yes. Audible.
Yeah. Sorry. So there's this other. It hasn't been discussed. The author has not requested any interim time, I think. I will try to reach out and ask if we should have some agenda time on this use case.
Yeah. In any case, submit a new version. I think you are one of the authors, aren't you?
Yeah. So new version submission is not a problem.
Okay. Cool.
I just wanted to point out the actual problem which I don't know how to deal with right now. So we will have to defer to the meeting.
Okay.
And Hank, I would have no objection if you just wanted to resubmit the current draft.
Okay. Yeah, we are over time. I will schedule another meeting for next Monday if that's okay for you. And whoever, those who have time are happy to join, and we sort of like talk about the hackathon because that will be then kind of imminent. And so, yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot for joining and for staying over time.
And we'll watch for action items this morning to try to hit the deadline tonight. So
yeah,
we'll be on Slack wherever you guys can poke to get some quick reviews.
Well, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, everybody. Thank you.
And update the document architecture top level, make it tidy up, and then John can merge his change as well. Make a new modified pull request on top of that.
Yeah, I will fix the bug I introduced somewhere in the document. Yeah. Sorry about that.
No worries. Yeah. Thank you. Talk to you later. Yeah.
Thanks.
ask you guys to see, find a different forum or working group for this whole company identification conversation. It doesn't really belong in SCITT. Like, is the chairs doing that?
Yeah, John and I and probably with others will try to figure out what we should do with this topic. It's kind of, the discussion kind of went a little bit overboard. Yeah.
I'm fine with having the discussion. I just don't think it's in our charter at this point.
No, it's a good discussion, and I learned a couple of new things. So that's excellent, but obviously not like a totally trivial topic. So we'll ask for some guidance from others who worked in that space.
So can you put something back on the mailing list saying, hey, you and John are working on trying to find the appropriate working group for this?
Sure. And of course, the next IETF meeting would be a good time for us to figure this out on what the right place would be.
Yeah, it has to be more than just Roy saying, hey, this is the wrong spot to be having the discussion.
Yeah. Well, John and I will definitely have a discussion about this and then post something to the list. It's a good idea.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you.